and welcome to It's 420, Wyoming. I am your host, Red Hawk. Thank you for joining me in the second interview of the year. Wyoming NORML is planning to have a special guest speaker on the 20th day of each month at 4:20 p.m., so tune in. Today's guest is Frank Latta. Welcome. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. Honored to be here.
What got you started in the fight for cannabis legalization?
I would say an open mind and a realization that we can't keep going like this way in our government right now. It's costing us too much money on a local level. It's costing us too much money on a state level, and it's totally ridiculous. We're ruining people's lives for a substance that has never OD'd anybody. No one has ever died from a cannabis OD. And right now, well, not right now, several years ago, I got with the county attorney in Campbell County, and he said it's costing between $7,000 and $10,000 for every marijuana arrest, just for arrest. We can't afford that. The bottom line is we just can't afford to keep doing that. And people won't look at it like that, but in dollars and cents, we can't afford to do that. And years ago in the legislature, I tried to talk to some people about dollars and cents. They're always concerned about money down at the legislature and how they're going to do this. I give them an outlet. Let's look at the cannabis. Not only does it bring in big tax dollars, but it keeps us from spending a great deal of money. So to me, it was a kind of a no-brain thing to look at. But obviously, not a lot of people thought that.
Yeah, that's true. There is a bill for partial decriminalization being put forward this year. What can an average citizen do to help with this?
Uh, you can call your legislators. Uh, you can call your legislators and legislators and ask them to support this bill. I really hate to tell you this. With the legislators that we have in place right now, the bill doesn't have a lot of hope, not even of being introduced. I don't even know if it'll be introduced in the House so they can even hear it. I don't believe, with my background and my years being involved, that cannabis has much of a chance in Wyoming without a referendum. And we've tried to do this before, and without a lot of success. Not that we haven't had success with the signatures on a referendum. That has been very successful. It's just trying to collect the dollars needed to get people to go out and collect signatures the right way, the correct way, the legal way, has been very difficult. And but if we want legalized cannabis in the state of Wyoming, we need to quit beating our heads against the wall and get a referendum. That's the only way it's going to happen in the state of Wyoming. Just quit the rest of it. You're spinning your wheels. Get a referendum together and get it done that way. The House is not going to even hear a bill. The Senate is not going to even hear a bill. There's senators and there's House members that support it, but there's not enough of them to even get it out on the floor to talk to. So bless everybody that wants to talk to the legislators about it, and some of the legislators will talk to you about it. But that's all the farther it'll go. I'm sorry to tell you that. That's just all the farther it will go. We need to get together and get a referendum on the ballot, and then it will pass. It will pass. I would say it would pass by 80% in Wyoming. And that's the best way we're going to be able to do it.
That's very interesting. Decriminalization recently failed to pass in the city of Cheyenne. Why do you think that Wyoming has such a hard time with the subject of cannabis legalization?
Oh, a very wise man once told me it's harder to get a man to drink water when he's dying of thirst in the desert if he has to admit that he's made a mistake. He'd rather drink sand. And that's the same way with our legislators and the people that we have down there. Most of them know that it's been a mistake with the criminalization of marijuana. They know that that's a mistake, but for them to step forward and say this has been a mistake, they just will not do that. That's something they're not going to do. And for us to explain, us to expect any of them to step forward and say, you know, this has been a mistake all these years, they're just not going to do that. And we're beating our head against the wall again. I just keep saying that. And I think it's so difficult. We still have a lot of legislators that have been elected for a long time are still down there, and they have a lot of authority down there. And the Peace Officers Association has a lot of authority down there, and they're still fighting it tooth and nail. They can't argue with you and tell you that it is the worst drug in the world and people have died for it. They know what the truth is, and they won't lie to you about it. They know the truth. The Peace Officers Association know that this is a harmless drug. It's not even a drug, it's a harmless plant. But they will not come out and support it. They just will not do that. They do not believe that the mom and pop back in Cokeville or down in Evanston or over in Cody at church is going to back them. And so therefore, they will not come out and support cannabis legalization. And they point at Colorado and say, look at the mess that it's caused down there. Well, they pick and choose. There's not a mess down there. The mess down there has not been caused by cannabis. It's Colorado may have some issues, but it isn't caused by cannabis. You look at Montana and the revenue that has been brought in there, and they're very happy with their cannabis in Montana. Oregon's the same way, and Washington's the same way. The revenue that has been brought in has done wonderful things. It's been put towards schools and highways. It's been amazing the amount of revenue brought in. The only way that Wyoming is going to do anything is if the federal government legalizes it. Then each county could then make their own decisions about it, and it wouldn't have to go through the state. That's the only way we're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
And if we want to put some pressure on Barrasso and Loomis and Hegeman, which is hard as well, those people don't have a good look at cannabis either. I've worked with all of them, and their look at cannabis is the same way. You know, I go home to church, and the lady at church told me that cannabis is bad, So I can never vote for it because the lady at church sits by me all the time, and she said she didn't like cannabis. So there you are.
Yeah, that's how it is.
And that's how Wyoming is. That's how Wyoming is. I just don't see without a referendum how cannabis is ever going to become legal in Wyoming. And that hurts me a lot. It hurts me a lot to say that because I've worked on this for 10 years, better than that, 15 years I've worked on this. And I say to this day, cannabis could help Wyoming a lot. It would give it another source for revenue that right now we're relying solely on energy, and energy is so up and down. You can follow it, it's up and down. We're always saying we need another revenue source, but they won't even look at cannabis. When cannabis becomes legal, it brings in a lot of ancillary businesses as well. Once it's legalized in the state, you can look at Montana. Montana in the year 2006, they had sales in the neighborhood of, well, tax revenue in the neighborhood of 50 million that come back to the state, and businesses in the neighborhood of 400,000 new businesses associated with cannabis that started in the state of Montana. And Montana's not a lot different than Wyoming, and they don't even want to look at that. So a referendum's the only option that we have.
Yes, powerful words. In your opinion, what could be examples of sane cannabis legalization?
What could be the positive things from cannabis?
Yeah.
The positive things from cannabis would be people would we would free up space at jail. Several of our jails are overcrowded, and we don't have population for real criminals that have broke the law, violent criminals. We need some space in our jails for those. We need to quit ruining people's lives for very small amounts of cannabis, whether they're selling it or whether they're just using cannabis. We would free up those people and not ruin their lives. I think that's a big thing. We would, like I say, we would offer a route for a lot of people to small independent businesses throughout the state. And they could open up businesses of all kinds throughout the state, whether it's cannabis related or cannabis paraphernalia related. Whether there would be growing cannabis, whether there would be manufacturing from cannabis. The medical part of cannabis is very brand new. I have several people up here in Gillette, Wyoming, that have got Parkinson's, and the only thing that they're getting relief from is the use of cannabis. And they have to break the law. They have to go to Montana. They have to go to Colorado to get the cannabis to give them relief because they have Parkinson's disease. And that's making them a criminal because they're getting medical relief from a plant. This is just very, very frustrating to somebody that has. I have friends that have Parkinson's that are having to deal with this, and it's very frustrating. So the amount of positive things that it would do for Wyoming far outnumber any negative things that it would do. And if anybody would like to come on to your venue here or any other venue in the state and sit down with me and discuss to me the negative things that cannabis does, and I'll discuss with them the positive things, great, we could do that, because nobody has been willing to do that. Sit down with me for the last 10 years and talk with me about the negative things that cannabis does, and I'll talk with them about the positive things. No one has been willing to do that. And I'm here, and I've been here, and they just won't do that. And it's very frustrating. And as you can tell, I'm frustrated with it.
Oh yeah, definitely. It seems that most people I talk to under 50 years old are in favor of cannabis legalization. Why do you think that so many older folks have a problem with it?
I don't. I think it's a very small amount of older folks. As I've looked at the data from Colorado, Montana, and even Washington and Oregon, the number of patients and clients they have in their dispensaries over 50 years old is over 50% of them, or over 50 years old. So the data that shows that age group is there's the age group over 50 years old. We may have some that are very staunch against it. They just happen to be the ones that are in the position that are making the laws. I don't think, again, I think if you ran a poll and we ran a vote, we would get an 80% turnout for in support of a decriminalization or legalization, however we would word it. I think that would pull all the way through, whether it's younger and then older. The interesting thing in the legal states in Montana and in Colorado, the number of youth, I mean by youth, 18 years and younger, have dropped off using cannabis when it was legalized. That's an interesting fact, but the number of youth under the age of 18 in legalized states has dropped off using cannabis. So it isn't a drug that draws in 12-year-olds as they're all screaming about, or it's dropped off. That's, it's not. It's just not. The figures are not there. The facts are not there. Sometimes they don't like to talk about facts, but the facts are that if you take, this is a fact I really like. If you take 5 guys and you put them in a room and you give them cannabis and they smoke cannabis, and you take 5 guys and put them in a room and give them alcohol as much as they want, those 5 guys are going to start a fight. The 5 guys with cannabis are going to start a band. And that's just the way it is. That's the difference in mindset in alcohol. And alcohol causes problems. We know alcohol has killed thousands of people, even in the state of Wyoming. It's killed hundreds of people. Drunk driving, the abuse of spousal abuse with alcohol is horrendous. And yet we don't want to look at that. We don't want to change. We say in Wyoming, we love change. We don't like change at all. And if they did, they would open their eyes and say, this is a good thing for the future. It's a good thing for Wyoming. It's a positive thing for Wyoming, but they won't look.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. Wyoming has financial issues. It seems that cannabis legalization and taxation would help the state. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, again, I would I was told that we don't have enough people to help that when I would talk to them about the taxes that cannabis would bring in. But in Montana, in 2006, Montana brought in over $50 million in cannabis taxes. And Montana doesn't have that many more people than Wyoming does. And so you can do the math pretty easily. We're not going to bring in multi-millions of dollars, but we're going to bring in a pretty good chunk of money for the state. Not to mention the number of small businesses we would also start. And I think that that would be a very good alternative for our state government to look at another revenue source. I think it would be very reasonable to think that.
hmm hmm I think it's a untapped resource.
I think it's an untapped resource, and I think it's in its beginning. It's in the very beginning of its life right now, and who knows where it can go from, whether you're talking about growing or whether you're talking about uh, the medical aspect of it, that things could be done, and Wyoming could sit right here and be making medical parts of cannabis. Uh, we could be doing all kinds of things like that, and we just need somebody to open their eyes and take a look and be positive about things.
Oh yeah.
And those are the questions we need to ask when we go to elect people. Do you have an open enough mind to look at something different?
hmm hmm And I also think that if cannabis is legalized, it will cut down on the um, police force having to enforce, you know, catching all these stoners when they should be doing something else.
You're absolutely right. Uh, they could, the law enforcement has enough to do without worried about the stoners that's sitting around smoking a pot. I mean, they have a lot of, we have meth by the tons in the state of Wyoming. We have coke by the tons in the state of Wyoming. And we have a lot of theft. We have a lot of that kind of thing that's going on in the state of Wyoming. Let's focus on that. Let's leave the poor guy smoking his pot. Leave him alone. He's not hurting anything. He's not the one out stealing. He's not the one out vandalizing. He's not the one out beating his wife. He's not the one out doing anything but smoking pot. Let's leave them alone. That'll free you law enforcement officers up to do your job, to do the other things. And
Yeah,
I've always thought that too.
yeah. So I was wondering, what do you think is healthier, the THC vapes or bud?
Um, Again, I'm 70 years old. I'm kind of old fashioned. Uh, I don't know what is all in the vape. I don't know if there's oils put in the vapes. I don't know what all's in there. Uh, the bud is pretty healthy, and why I say that is I have friends and acquaintances that have been using bud for 60 years, and they're still using bud, and it has I see no harmful effect on that, and that's probably nationwide. You see very little harmful of the bud. Now with the vape, it hasn't been around long enough for me to say that this is really not a harmful thing. I just don't have the background enough to tell you that the vape is not harmful. I don't have that.
Okay, that makes sense. We're going to go ahead and take a quick ad break. Hello, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Red Hawk, and I'm here with my special guest, Frank Latta. Actually, I heard that 40% of the police's, business comes from arresting people for THC. And I don't think that's right because they should be going after things like fentanyl as the real killer in our communities.
Well, I don't know what the rate is for what they're getting, and each department is different for what they go after. It seems like some of the rural sheriff's departments are very hard on the THC, whereas some of the local municipalities may not be as hard. And that may be different from county to county. I don't know, but you're exactly right. They need to focus their attention where the problems are, and the problems are not with the marijuana smokers. Those people that are using marijuana are not their problem. Their problems are with their hard drugs and their violence, and that's the ones they need to focus on. It is awful easy to go, well, I smelled something in the air. Oh, let's go make an easy bust over here. That's easy to do. And unfortunately, we have in all walks of life and every type of job, we have the type of people that take the easy way, and we have that in every job you want to go to. We got the people that want to go the easy route, so you're always going to have that. And law enforcement is no exception. We have the guy that just wants to sit there and say, well, I know that guy over there is smoking pot. I'm going to go get him. I ain't got nothing else to do, and I'm not going to go work any harder. And we have those everywhere. But we certainly need to focus on other things other than the marijuana. And again, when you go to your election for your city councils, that's where it all starts. Your best government is a government that's closest to you. And the closest government to you is your city council. You talk to your city councils before they get elected and say, look, I want to know what your stand is on marijuana. Are you going to be hard on that? You're going to ask your law enforcement to really put down on the marijuana people? Are you going to ask your people to lay off the marijuana people and go for the harder drugs? Ask those guys before you mark that box that you're going to vote for them, and spread the word. Get out in the community and say, I talked to this guy who's running for city council, and this is his stand on marijuana. Let's not support him. Get out there and be vocal about it. And that will help change as much as anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, a lot of veterans want to use THC to help with their PTSD, but they can't. So a lot of times they just end up using alcohol instead, which is a lot worse for them.
They do. I lost a friend, not a friend, a friend's son, come back, and they took him off the THC up in Montana, and he shot himself, killed himself. And I like to blame that, but I don't have the expertise to do that. But boy, it sure seemed awful coincidental. They made him get off the THC and got him on the other hard drugs and alcohol, and he shot himself. So, the problem with our society is even the hard drugs. The hard drugs don't need to go. The people using the hard drugs don't need to go to jail. They need help. They need to go to someplace they can get some help for that. And jail is not a place you go to get help. Jail is where they throw you in, just hold you in a cell, and then you go through the court system. And help is not what you get there. And our system is badly in need of overhaul. Our system is badly in need of overhaul. And they know it too. The police officers know it too. They don't know what to do with some of these people that they pick up that are on heavy drugs, that I think the worms are coming out of the wall and trying to eat them, and they think that the whole world's coming down on them. They don't know what to do with these people either. And so they need some mental help. And our mental help in the state of Wyoming is severely lacking, very lacking. And it's going to continue to be that way because of who we've elected. They do not see that as something that they need to address at all. And so therefore, again, we're back at who we've elected. And if we continue to elect those kind of people, we're going to continue to get the same turnout. And that's where we're at now. And I hate to be down. I don't like to be down about things. And I don't like to look at the negative part of things. But On the other hand, until we can get together as a Wyoming community, our whole community, the state of Wyoming is one big community, just a few long streets in it, and say, you know, we need to come into the here and now and realize that over 30 states have legalized marijuana in one way or another, whether it's medical or recreational or one way or another. They have recognized that there's an issue here, and we won't even recognize it enough to talk about it on the House floor. That's pretty sad. That's a pretty sad statement to say about Wyoming, that we're not even open-minded enough to have an open conversation. That's pretty sad.
Mm-hmm.
So just
And
remember, yeah.
yeah, I also know that a lot of people who struggle with addiction, they try to use THC to help them with their withdrawals, and helps them live a normal life. But in Wyoming, it's completely outlawed. You can't get it anywhere, so they have to go with the illegal drugs, which it basically just kills them.
Yeah. And even the pharmaceutical drugs, which are illegal, still kills them. So, and even if you get a Montana or Colorado, or you have a license from a physician that says I can get marijuana legally in Colorado or Wyoming or Colorado or Montana or any other state where it's legal medically, they don't recognize that, and you still get thrown in jail for it here in Wyoming, and that even needs to be looked at. Even if we could recognize any other state's licensing in the state of Wyoming, if we just recognize their licensing, and somebody comes through the state and has some marijuana, and we pick them up and they say, look, we have a medical problem and we have a license for this, we throw the book at them. That needs to change. We need to say we're going to honor the other states' licensing for this drug, like we do for every other drug that is licensed in this country. But we don't even do that. And so if the family is coming to Yellowstone for the summer to spend their 2-week vacation in beautiful Yellowstone, which is a beautiful park in the country, and they find a joint in their car, they go to jail. And that all needs to change. The world is changing, and Wyoming needs to change with it. But I can scream that at the top of my lungs all I want, and I'm ignored. And so we just need to keep working on it and keep looking to the future and keep pressing our people that we elect. And that's the best way we can do that, is keep pressing the people that we elect.
Mm-hmm.
And it is changing. It's changing. I want to make sure that everybody knows that. When I first started this and we were starting talking about marijuana, boy, even in a restaurant, it would clear out, because he's talking about something that's illegal. He's going to get, and now you can have open discussions about it. Even in the state of Wyoming, you can have open discussions about marijuana, and people here with Parkinson's and with PTSD call me all the time, and we can have open discussions in open places, in libraries. We can have open discussions in the restaurant, and it is getting better. It is getting better even in Wyoming. And I have to always remember that from where we were, I always have to remember it's getting better, but it is awful, awful slow. And you get awful, you just wish things could change a little quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of people, I think, see weed as a gateway drug to harder and more dangerous drugs. But I don't think that's the case. I think it depends on the person.
Yeah, the gateway drug is alcohol. That's the gateway drug. Let's not sugarcoat it. The gateway drug is alcohol. It's not weed. It's not anything else. The gateway drug is alcohol. You can say what you want, but that's the gateway drug. So if you want, if they really want to make a huge difference and they're worried about people making bad decisions, let's get rid of alcohol. Let's get rid of alcohol. And if you, and I brought that up in the legislature, and it's a wonder I'm not hanging from a noose out behind the back, because boy, you talk about getting rid of their alcohol, and that's taboo. That's their,
Mm-hmm.
that's, they love that, or alcohol. You can't talk about getting rid of their alcohol. So, but it is not a gateway drug. Marijuana is it is a, for a lot of people, it is a medical drug that they use to help them cope with the world that we live in. And everybody needs something to help them cope with the world that we live in. A lot of people use a little beer, okay. A lot of people use a little wine, okay. A lot of people use a lot of whiskey. That's not okay. And that's where the problem is they don't seem to be able to control. Some people can't control their addictions, whether their addiction to fast foods, and we've got an obesity problem in this country like no other country. But to say that it is a gateway drug, it's not a gateway drug. The gateway drug is alcohol. So
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
think so. And
well,
cigarettes.
and cigarettes. When we did the studies, and when they've done the studies all over, they said that the most they did how addicting is THC. Well, in the scale, they did the scale on and cigarettes are the most addicting thing that we have. A cigarette is the most addicting you can get. And you go down the scale, and you go way down the scale, and you talk about alcohol being addicting, and you talk about all the things addicting. And then you talk, well, where's THC fall? It falls right below chocolate. Chocolate is more addicting to the normal person than THC is. So that kind of tells you where you're at in the scale. Okay, can you put down a chocolate bar? Can you just put the chocolate bar down? Do you have what it takes to not eat 5 pounds of chocolate in one setting? Okay, you do. Well, then you're probably going to have the ability to not smoke enough pot. And if you do OD on pot, you're going to just pass out and go to sleep. And that's what you do. It's not going to kill you. So it's a matter of education. And the problem with education is we're trying to educate somebody who doesn't want to be educated. The
Mm-hmm.
people that got their mind made up that marijuana is the evil devil lettuce that they've always told us it was, they just, again, they would rather drink sand in the desert when they're dying of thirst than change their mind.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
feel like these nicotine vapes are very dangerous. People don't
Yes.
realize it. Even the juice that comes in them is, if you get that on your skin, you could be not having a good time.
Yeah. I have a feeling that that gets into your lungs. That's not good for you. I I don't know that. I'm not a doctor. I don't know that, but anything you inhale like that can't be good for you.
Yeah. And they put a lot of stuff in it to make it taste like fruit, and I don't
Yeah.
think that's good for you either.
No, no. I don't think any of that's good. And you know, I know they're starting to ban some of the vapes like in school and some of those things. They're starting to ban some of that, and that's probably a good idea to ban some of that stuff. And but when you ban something, well, it's the marijuana. We tried to ban alcohol, and then back in the 20s, they took away the ban. They seen that wasn't working because so many people were going to homemade alcohol, and that homemade alcohol was killing people because they weren't doing it right and it was killing people. And so they got away from the ban of alcohol. Well, the ban on marijuana is the same. They will they will not learn from the past, and the past tells them that banning something just doesn't work. So
Mm.
if if they went to legalizing marijuana, then they could get away from they could focus on the things that really matter. Let's focus on what is going into the kids' lungs. Okay, let's focus on that. Well, okay, we're going to say marijuana is legal for adults to buy. Okay, there's a line we draw. Okay, anything that the kids have, then we can focus on that. Now, the vapes are not good. Let's focus on it. Let's focus. And they don't do that. They gun shoot. They shoot it like a shotgun, and they want to take everything. And it gets real frustrating to even try to deal with them right now. Uh, but again, I I hate to keep coming back to it, but uh, we're going to have to do a petition to get this passed in the state of Wyoming,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's what we're going to have to do. We'll probably have to raise about $100,000 to get this petition going and get legal petition drive and get it all done. But that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah,
think we can do it. It's only a matter of time before cannabis is legal in Wyoming.
yeah, it is. It is. We're going to be left. We're going to be left behind. The Montana and Colorado is already way ahead of us, but Montana and everybody else is really focusing on the medical and what they can do and how much business can be produced by doing medical. We're going to be left behind in that again, and we're going to miss the boat, and we're not going to be able to do tax collection on medical cannabis and the products that produces. We're being left behind. So,
Hmm.
so
Well,
I wish you guys good luck. I hope you do good luck and do well. And if I can help, I'm here.
thank you, thank you. Hey, thank you for being on the podcast today.
You
I
bet.
really enjoyed it.
Hey, not a problem. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Mm.